Hello, my friends. It is Pat coming on with a live on this Sunday night. And this is not a video about, using my cards or for predicting the energies of the upcoming month or anything like that. Actually, I'm going to move my view a little bit here, more over to something with a more pleasant background. I was inspired to come on with this and titling it mobilizing our forces, for the emphasis being on forces of love, peace, and prayer. Okay. I mentioned in my February video that, hello, Christine. Thanks for joining me. So yeah, tonight I was going to talk about mobilizing our forces, like I said, with emphasis on the word forces, of love, peace, and prayer. And on my February video for the energies for the upcoming month, I had mentioned that I was kind of, I was off balance and, needed some time to take care of me. And I mentioned some of my spiritual practices that I go back to, you know, meditation, being in stillness, having some time to pray, to pray to God, to the angels, to the, divinities that you feel aligned with. To get back to a more grounded place. And I've been, I'm continuing to do that, even as I've come back on YouTube. And this morning, I guess I felt called and inspired to come on and talk about this because I felt called to remind people or to share that these, thoughts, prayers, we talk about sending love, light, et cetera, these are forces. And what I mean by that, if we want to look at what the whole idea of what a force is, if we think about gravity, gravity is a force that acts upon something. It acts upon all of us. Otherwise, we'd be, floating, floating around the atmosphere. Electricity is a force. Okay. If we look at what a force is, it's something that has an effect upon something else. And one of the most powerful things I've learned on my spiritual journey is that, and I grew up in Catholicism, but I moved from there to also learning about and studying from the yogis, because they are beings that have transcended the physical world. While still in human form, they became enlightened and had great realizations and many times could even defy the laws of physics. We've all heard of saints who levitate, but in my study of them, it was from learning from them that I learned that thought is a force like gravity and electricity. Love is a force like gravity and electricity. Okay. And prayer is something that we are doing to call in the higher, unseen, loving forces that do work on our behalf. Okay. I think in these times and any times we've been coming across where there's been like shootings, and bad things that happen in the world, the world finds out about it a lot more quickly. People, it's all over the different kinds of media, and people come on social media and talk about it, and they say, oh, our thoughts and prayers go out to this person. But I think a lot of times it's become almost like, I don't want to say a canned response, but like more of like just an automatic thing that we say. Kind of like the way you say, if you say thank you to someone, they say you're welcome. Or if someone sneezes, you say bless you or gesundheit. It's like an automatic response. Not that it isn't a kind of response. It is. But what I was being reminded of today to come on and talk about is to remember that prayer and immersing ourselves in our and attuning ourselves to the sense of love and um and peace, which already exists, and we already have it is part of our soul's nature. We just need to attune ourselves with it and get back in alignment with it. These are forces, and they are the forces that we have at times when it seems like the world's going to hell in a handbasket. When we get very caught up in fear, we tend to forget that we have this power and these forces within us. Because we get our mind and our thoughts and our attention and our feelings are getting caught up in what's going on in the outer world. Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit, just about these things individually. It didn't intend tonight to be like a long live or anything like that. Although if people have questions, if more people come on other than just you, Christine, I'll certainly, we'll have maybe more of a discussion or answer some questions or what have you to the best that I can. I don't claim to be the world renowned expert on all of this, but when it comes to prayer, one of the things that I've come to learn best is that not to pray like a beggar. It's a demand that we place on God and the universe. We can make that demand because, as we have been told by so many spiritual texts known to mankind, that we are the child of the divine. And just like going to a parent to ask for help or to ask for their intervention or their wisdom or their guidance, we can call at and ask that of God and the angels and those divine beings that we feel most aligned with. It's a demand. We don't have to be a beggar and beg and plead. Okay. It is our divine right to do that. And when we quiet the mental chatter, when we take that time out to breathe and to just listen to the silence, and from the place of the language of our own heart and soul, make that call. Um, that is a force. Okay. It's responded to. Even though we can't always see in that moment, when we reach out to the divine and ask for help, they do go to work on our behalf in more ways than what we can physically see. And they are working for us now, even though all these, disruptions and unprecedented and horrific things seem to be going on in our world. Okay. And these, when we use these as forces, they're not forces that are like to combat something. I remember from watching that movie, The Secret, there was a part in it where they were talking about Mother Teresa and how she said she would, she wouldn't go to an anti-war rally. But if you asked her to come to a peace rally, she would definitely join in on that. Because what you resist persists. We don't want to put our energy into being like, fighting the fight or, being against this or anti that. But we can use our forces to be for something like peace. Love, as I mentioned, is also a force. Now, we tend to think of love as, romantic love or, soft, compassionate, gentle. It is those things. But love also as a force has a firmness to it. It has a toughness to it. And that can be drawn upon. Sending out love as a force doesn't mean that we lay down and let everything walk all over us, or that we're gentle to the point of being abused. It isn't that at all. Love is a force that's actually protective, and it has the power to awaken love in other people's hearts and to neutralize the forces of evil. Okay? That's what's the wonderful thing about these forces is they're not combating against, but they do neutralize those, the forces of evil, those forces that would seek to break us apart and make us think that we're separate and that, pitting one person against another. Okay. Um, Love conquers evil. It's a neutralizing force. It's and the same could be said of forgiveness. Forgiveness is one of those acts of power because it is a like a neutralizing force as well. So um, I don't have a whole lot to elaborate per se about this, except that after my meditations today, I just simply felt like, you know what? We need to remember that when we're talking about sending thoughts and prayers and sending out light and love to these places that have suffered tragedies, or when we know that our own fear is coming up about what's going on in the world, um, we need to remember that these things are forces that we can engage. And we engage them through taking that time out, putting aside, um, putting aside thoughts. I'm looking at some notes that I had, so bear with me. Um, you know, Putting responsibilities aside, carving out that time to listen to the silence and to pray or, you know, bring into your heart a sense of love, maybe by thinking about someone that you love already. Maybe it's a child, maybe it's a spouse, partner, parent, someone that you already have a great deal of love and respect for, and use that to fill your heart up so that you can send that out, radiate it out to other people, to the world, you can send it right to using the power of your thoughts, sending it to that person, to that area, and enveloping them in that. I know when I have troubling situations come up and I find myself rehearsing in my head, you know, the personality dynamics of a situation and, kind of rehearsing my own right fighting in my head, I stop. When I become aware of it, I stop. And I'll try to meditate and quiet my mind and do as Louise Hay, I learned from her too. Bless them with love. It isn't always easy. I'm not saying it's always easy. It's a practice, okay? Um, but because love is a force, it has the effect of neutralizing the ickiness sometimes or the negativity in situations. Now, we all have that ability. We all have it within us. It's a matter of removing ourselves from the distractions that we have so much of in the physical world. There's so many things pulling in our attention with computers and cell phones. It almost feels weird sometimes to like sit and just listen to the silence. But that's when our revelations and we are able to better hear the voice of our guides, our guidance, our angels, and the voice of God, which is silence. It is peace. And it's that feeling of happiness. And as we attune ourselves with that more and cultivate it, because it does take a conscious effort to cultivate it. Um, it's not something that, uh, well, we can get caught up in either one. It's kind of like that story about the two wolves. Which one wins? Whichever one you feed. So we have to remind ourselves not to continue to feed um, ourselves with those stimulants that are going to create more worry and have that right fighting go on in our head and stuff that we're rehearsing over and over again. It's when we get into quiet and you can bring your attention to that point between your eyebrows and pray with conviction, making that demand request and asking for help to those places that are suffering. The earth is suffering, the people in areas are suffering, and to neutralize these forces that are seeking to disrupt us and bring suffering upon us. So right now, I have a great deal of faith that this too shall pass. It's not the first time in our nation's history that we have seen um, dire situations happen that have instilled fear in us. But we have gotten through them, and we will get through it again. Because by and large, we are people that, when something happens in a natural disaster to some place in our country or even in other parts of the world, there are so many of us that care about our fellow human being. And there's more of that out there in the world than there is the, people in big corporate places who, don't care about the well-being or don't seem to care about the well-being of their fellow man and just want money and power. Okay. We far outnumber them. And the consciousness, okay, what we're bringing our consciousness of love and peace to is growing. That consciousness is rising. So anyway, that's my 2 cents that I am sharing with you today. Take what you like, leave the rest. But that's what I felt inspired to come on and talk about today, to remind us of our forces so that we don't feel like helpless victims of a narcissistic dictator wannabe. We can marshal our forces to help expand the process of peace so that peace can prevail, okay, in our own hearts and in the world. All right, my friends, thank you for joining me, whoever joined me here today. Christine, thank you. And thank you to those of you who are watching this in replay. Okay, please like and subscribe if this video helped you here today. And certainly come back because I'll have more videos out this month. Thank you so much for watching and take care, everyone. Blessings to you.